DOGE. It is official. It is actually happening. The Department of Government Efficiency, government, is real, as announced here in an official statement from President Donald J. Trump. I am pleased to announce that the great Elon Musk, I love how this sounds like an imperial decree, you know? I expect trumpets to be blaring as this is announced. Working in conjunction with American patriot Vivek Ramaswamy will lead the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Together, these two wonderful Americans will pave the way for my administration to dismantle government bureaucracy, slash excess regulations, cut wasteful expenditure, and restructure federal agencies, essential to the Save America movement. This will send shockwaves through the system and anyone involved in government waste, which is a lot of people, stated the great Elon Musk. You gotta add that to his title now. It is official. They even go so far as to, I believe, what was it here? Compare it to the Manhattan Project. There we go, yes. It will become potentially the Manhattan Project of our time. Ooh, all right, we're getting spicy here, aren't we? And don't get me wrong, these are some sexy syllables, and no doubt about it, and we're going to get into precisely why a little bit later on, but I do have a worry here, and it can be found right down here. I look forward to Elon Vivek making changes to the federal bureaucracy with an eye on the efficiency and at the same time making life better for all Americans. Importantly, we will drive out the massive waste and fraud which exists throughout our annual $6.5 trillion of government spending. Jesus. They will work together to liberate our economy and make the US government accountable to we, the people. Their work will conclude no later than July 4th, 2026. A smaller government with more efficiency and less bureaucracy will be the perfect gift to America on the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. I am confident they will succeed. This one right here is a bit of a... This makes me feel almost a little bit like they're throwing them to the wolves, because that's about, what, a year and a half or so to conduct major governmental reforms? Oof, that's a tough deadline. That is a harsh deadline. Now, admittedly, the Republicans have won everything there is to win. Literally, they have swept it all. They are in a position of power the likes of which has rarely been seen in the United States political system. And so if there is any time to go all in on this, it is now. If there is any moment that this major, actual, genuine, sweeping reforms to the governmental systems can be carried out, it is now. But 1.5 years? That's asking quite a lot. Now, one could easily argue that giving them too much time will introduce complacency into the process as well. Absolutely, but the only thing that appears to be absolutely unavoidably universal in all forms of government is that it moves god damn slow. So, we'll see about that, I guess. Elon Musk, all actions of the Department of Government Efficiency will be posted online for maximum transparency. So this at least will allow the public to actually put the whip to them and make sure that they're actually doing something properly. Although I will also argue, see, most governmental dealings are actually public insofar as they are buried under an absolute mountain of paperwork. So, anytime the public thinks we are cutting something important or not cutting something wasteful, just let us know. This too is not as good of an idea as it sounds, because there's about 300 million Americans, and I can pretty much guarantee that every single solitary one of them has a different opinion on what is and is not wasteful as well, so you're going to need to focus the feedback here a little bit. 99 federal agencies is more than enough, as they had 428. Now, this is probably a point that everyone can agree needs cutting. No doubt, Vivek Ramaswamy as well. DOGE will soon begin crowdsourcing examples of government waste, fraud, and abuse. Americans voted for drastic government reform, and they deserve to be part of fixing it. Excuse me. Now, this too is interesting because there is a lot of dumb there is a lot of waste. I mean, you can look at public funding for arts and culture in 2020 was, what was it here? 162.3 million in appropriation to the NEA, 435 million in legislative appropriations to state and jurisdictional arts agencies, 860 million in funds allocated by municipal and county governments to local arts agencies, and so on. Now, don't get me wrong, arts and cultures are important. But are they this important? That's a question. Or worse still, National Institute of Health spent almost $500,000 to study gambling pigeons. This is actually real. They created a, slots machine setup for pigeons to study gambling. Or, Dr. Fauci's Nyad spent $478,188 to turn monkeys transgender. NSA wasted $3.6 million on a unused parking garage. Or the more, official government's fund. Executive order on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the federal workforce. This was from 2021. This, too, essentially ordered the government to start thinking in the terms of DEI. It has not done Disney any favors. It hasn't done Blizzard any favors. It hasn't done entertainment or gaming any favors, and somehow, therefore, I doubt it's going to be doing the government all that many favors. But discovering what to cut and what to not to cut, that is going to be difficult. And making it solely up to the people, I do believe, is probably a mistake as well, because you are going to get 300 million different opinions on this. For some people, it is going to appear to be of pivotal importance that America gets, for example, expanded healthcare options, free healthcare options on certain things, like disability, for example, whereas others will look at that and say, no, this is the last thing we need. Now, in many cases, people can agree on particularly idiotic things, absolutely. And for some people, the arts and crafts will be far more important than others. I fear this might begin a bit too much of a witch hunt, resulting in a lot of finger pointing, but not that many actually effective measures being taken. As the effective measures that need to be taken, well, you can see a bit of that in the US debt clock, with this being by far the most important number: the interest on debt. See, for regular people, there is a point at which, if you have an X amount of debt, that is so and so many percent of your total income, you will never get out of debt. Or at the very least, it is extraordinarily unlikely. For a normal person, that's something like a fourth of your income. If you are spending a fourth of your income before tax on just servicing debt, you might be screwed for a very, 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 very long time. The US passed that point a much longer time ago, as the US federal debt to GDP ratio is 122%. Now, of course, you cannot compare a personal economy to a governmental one, obviously, but this is essentially money that will never return. It is money that serves no good purpose, that is simply bleeding out of the economy ad infinitum and getting worse day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour. Cutting down on the US's debt is of absolute critical importance. And yet, here's the thing as well. You cannot simply just cut. What you in essence need to do is refocus this income. Say that you find that you're spending $860 million on municipal and county governments to local arts agencies to be a bit excessive. Perhaps cut that in half. Now you've got $400 million to spend on something America actually need, which is catching up to the rest of the world in terms of manufacturing. Because the reason why the United States of America, one of the resource-wise richest nations in the world, has a debt and a trade deficit is because it has moved the majority of its manufacturing to other countries. It looked at nations like China and thought to itself, wait, I can produce t-shirts over there for a third of the US? Hell yeah, brother, that's what I'm gonna do. And it's really nice in the short term. In the long term, however, you are moving your manufacturing industry over to a country that hates you. You're outsourcing the production of your natural resources, your oils, your coals being strangled by a Paris Climate Accord that in fact gives China free reins to increase their own production of coal, outcompeting massively the US on its own raw resources. This is the thing. America needs to spend money to earn money right now. It needs to spend money on automation. It needs to spend money to bring jobs back home. It needs to spend money on manufacturing, on technology, on doing things better, cheaper, and more effectively in the US rather than in Mexico or in China or any other places. And the only way the US is going to find that money without printing even more money, and some printing is going to be next to inevitable in this case, is to actually cut in superfluous nonsense. See, one of the things that not just America, but virtually every government in the world has forgotten at this point is that there exists such a thing as luxurious governmental spending. There are some things that the government needs to spend money on, like, an army, for example. Otherwise, other people are going to want your stuff. Or on a fire department, or police departments, or maintaining public infrastructure. All of these things are things that we have entrusted the government to do for us because we ourselves simply can't be bothered to do it, and it's easier this way. Fair enough. But there are certain other things, like the arts and crafts, for example, like transgender monkeys, or figuring out whether turnips can feel pain, that really are not good uses of our money. Grants for scientists, for example, grants for science is highly useful, but it is also a luxury project in many cases, depending on the exact governmental grants in question. There are even industrial grants. You could give an industrial grant to, build the parking slots for the NSA, for example, that will stand unused. Or you could spend that $3.6 million on creating fully automated manufacturing capacities in the US. Revolutionizing the car industry, for example. In Germany right now, German car manufacturers are automating damn near everything because they understand that it's expensive to make cars, and they can easily be outcompeted by other countries like China, for example, if they ever figured out how a combustion engine functions. The US needs to do the same, and this does cost money. This is something I've complained about in Norway quite a few times, but we are an incredibly rich nation that refuses to actually use the money we have to build for ourselves a future. Instead, we continue to scrimp and save, hoping that somehow, in 100 years' time, we'll just be able to live off savings, and hey, at least we have a chance of doing it because we're running at a net positive. The US really doesn't have that kind of time on its hands. And tariffs is one good way to begin doing this. Increasing the amount of money that is in the US and using that money to advantage US manufacturing. And don't get me wrong, this will increase prices short term, absolutely. There will be a period of time in which goods will become more expensive. There will be a period of time in which goods will become probably even scarcer. And there might even be a period of time where jobs become scarcer, because the industry needs to automate first, become profitable, and then grow to employ people. It is a long-term solution that is probably going to be painful in the short term, but it is also something that is unavoidable because the short-term solution was already taken. The short-term solution was moving the manufacturing to China in the first place. And that, as we have now quite clearly demonstrated, hurts the nation in the long term, doesn't it? And eventually, some serious grips will need to be taken in order to alleviate the situation that you've already buried yourself into. Now, What I hope too is that this will be wrapped up on 4th of July 2026 and then be given another mandate because it'll have been remarkably successful. That's what I hope. I hope this is going to become a publicly accepted thing across the globe. I want to see campaigns in England, in France, in Germany, in Norway about government efficiency funds. And here's the thing too. At the end of the day, another governmental board, well, extra governmental in this case, but you get my idea, to oversee other governmental boards. How much can they actually get done? How long until they too become corrupt? For the exact same reason that governmental bloat exists in the first place. As we Norwegians say, don't place the goat to watch over the oats, because it's going to eat them. And it's probably going to happen. But we need to do something. Something has to be done. And the inevitability of corruption, well, it's simply going to require further cuts in the future. Something has to be done today to alleviate tomorrow, and we'll worry about the day after that again some other time. I hope that DOGE becomes an enormous success and can spread to many other nations. If it becomes a failure, however, well, I'm worried about the amount of time they've been given. I feel like that's shooting the entire movement somewhat in the foot for what appears to be a rather ceremonial reason. But who knows? Elon Musk seems to be an absolutely ridiculous little bundle of energy. If anyone is capable of doing this in a year and a half, I mean, hell, just sorting through the data alone feels like it's going to be a nightmare, honestly. But if anyone can do it, it probably is Elon Musk. So, Godspeed, you crazy bastards. And until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.